Hello everybody, this is Diana Aguilar reporting for CoinDesk. We are right now in Buenos Aires, Argentina, talking with one of the co-founders of one of the biggest exchanges here in the country. He is Matias Bari, co-founder of SatoshiTango. Hi Matias, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good. Well, Matias, first of all, please tell us how and why did SatoshiTango started?
Okay, we started back in 2014, me and my two partners. We've been always in the startup scene here in Buenos Aires, and we started to read about Bitcoin back in 2012. The whole idea exploded in my head. I knew I had to do something with it. So we started talking and we realized it was like on an early stage here in Argentina, and so we come up with the idea of a very easy to use website where Argentines can buy and sell Bitcoin with a fixed price. We realized that an exchange, a normal exchange with an order book and orders and stop loss and take profit was too complex. The whole idea was to allow Argentines to buy and sell cryptocurrency very easily.
From all your experience, how it's really moving the cryptocurrency in Argentina?
From my perspective, we can separate two different things. We are a 40 million people country. Unfortunately, this is we have poverty around 30%, 35%, depends on the moment. So the whole market is not that big as market. It's not the United States with 300 million people and booming economy. So the market is not that big. But what we do have is an amazing entrepreneur scene, worldwide companies, mining farms. We have brokerage companies, exchanges, wallets. We have people doing different type of things around the world in the same ecosystem, which is the Bitcoin ecosystem. So when we talk about the market in Argentina, as I said, I need to separate the market, the people buying and selling Bitcoin. Of course, it is big compared to other countries, but we are a 40 million people country.
Talking about the entrepreneurial scene, okay, yes, you are right. Argentina, in fact, has a lot of entrepreneurs and startups, but let's talk about impact now. From your perspective, how much impact does having that many startups? The last number I read was over 200 startups only dedicated to fintech here in Argentina. So what is the real impact of having that many businesses working about that in here? Does that boost adoption of some kind?
Many fintech companies has a very huge impact. Many of them are simply a new way to do things. Like, well, CoinDesk is a news website. 20 years ago, it was unthinkable. And so many companies are making the difference because they offer services to unbanked people. And many companies are just a new user experience for different people. Banks have 150 years around the world. It's like a 150-year industry. So they had to adapt. There are many startups, not only in the fintech space, but in any space that are changing the way we do things. Many of them have an impact and many of them don't.
Something very interesting that I learned about your company is that SatoshiTango was directly linked to the financial instability in Argentina. What is the impact of this instability that we are seeing right now in the statistics of transactions in SatoshiTango?
When we first started, there was capital controls here in Argentina. And we thought that many of our customers were using our website to escape those controls. We had an election, the government changed, and they ended the capital controls. And surprisingly, we started to have many more users. So, of course, some malfunctioning in the country can make us, due to the nature of our business, can make us have a little bit more volume, more users, because they need some other ways to do things that the country is not allowing them because of the crisis, because of devaluation, inflation, capital controls, whatever. When you have economic stability, companies are booming. You can take advantage of crisis and instability at some point, but it will be much better for us as a country, as a society, as a company as well, to live in a stable country with a more stable variables.
Yes, do you think that we could get to an agreement that perhaps economical crises are a good way to develop new solutions, like you get more creative in that sense, but it's not a way for your company to actually grow once you start to working on that solution?
Exactly as you said, and let me tell you this, unfortunately our country, Argentina, is a place with constant crisis. Every 10 years, every 15 years, we have a really big crisis. We need to use our brain to escape inflation, hyperinflation, capital controls or whatever. So yes, of course, the country, the society uses its creativity to come up with new ideas. And that's why when you travel around and you see people from Argentina that had to leave the country because of, well, the reasons, and usually they are successful people.
So recently, I read that the Bitcoin market here in Argentina was up for 400%. Okay, right. Have you ever seen these numbers before? Why is this happening?
We've only seen those numbers back in 2017 with the Bitcoin fever around the world that took the price to almost 20,000 US dollars. As I said, when you have this type of crisis, devaluation and increasing inflation, then, well, last Monday here in Argentina, we have a 35% currency devaluation. So people started to buy cryptocurrency, and that's why we had the 400% increase in volume last week. It was crazy. Of course, we benefit from that activity because it's a higher volume for us, but it relies on a country that is in malfunction. So it's not something to be that happy. Of course, our company can grow, but the country is imploding. So, you know.
Yeah, that's the picture I have in my mind. Like,
it's like selling coffins when you have a plane crash. Yes, of course, you sell coffins. That's your job, but you're not happy that 200 people died. Well, we are not happy that the country it's in the middle of a huge crisis. We are 3 months away from a presidential election. So hopefully we'll have a smooth transition, and the country will start, you know, stabilizing again and start growing. Hopefully, I don't know.
So now, can you explain to me what would it be the main difference between Argentina and the rest of the markets, at least in Latin America, when it comes to this booming adoption? It's only hyperinflation? It has something to do with the culture you guys have here financially? What is it?
It has to do with the culture. As I said, we've been jumping from crisis to crisis. My grandfather told my father told me, you know, the same stories every single time. And that makes us more creative. You train your brain. You need to think all the time. If you live in a much more stable country where you don't have to worry about the future and you don't have to think because the economy is booming and you have a stable job, and so you don't need to think that much. Of course, it's much better to live that way than to live this way.
That way sounds boring.
Yeah, it probably is. I can tell you this is fun. But it's not funny when you see people suffering, and that's what happens when you have a crisis. So when you have this culture where you need to solve problems all the time and you need to be creative, and you have a free university and you have economic crisis, Then you have this cocktail which allows us to have startup companies, more companies in every single industry, and that's why Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ecosystem is so big. Of course, in absolute numbers, it's a small number because you have the States are 300 million people. Probably you have more Bitcoin users in the States than in Argentina, but compared to our size, to our country, yes, the crypto ecosystem in Argentina it's amazing, with several very well-known companies around the world, and that's crazy. That's something we should be proud of.